is a large impact. Most of the founders that I meet are really stuck in what they will make this company look like in a quarter, or in 6 months, or for the next fundraise. Other view said that we're going to build a business for a very, very long time, whatever it takes. We are not solving for optics. We are not solving for funding now. We are solving for something very fundamental to the consumer and to the industry. You gotta have access to a good quality public transport every time when you step out of your house. Okay, it's just beautiful to be here. And Manish, I really asked you, you guys are fantastic. So I thank you for organizing this and having me here. I'm sad for some of the people who are outside, they're going to miss something. So, I have just three things to tell you and no slides. So you can just look at me. Cars are a really essential part of our lives. Almost every one of us would have taken one in the morning to come here. And we are grateful for that. This would have felt even better in 1886 when cars were invented. But if you look today, after 140 years, with a century and a half, cars have totally failed us. We were better off without having them in our lives. What this tells you is that to really know whether something is meaningful, you really got to have a much longer length of time. You got to look at a really, really long period of time. And that long period of time is, in my head, lifetime, and sometimes many lifetimes. That's the first thing I want to tell you. And if you're really building something for a lifetime, and when Manish was presenting here, he was saying the sector he is really interested in. That almost every investor, every entrepreneur speaks about impact. But if you put a lens of impact and look at what you're going to build in this 5 year or a 10 year or a 20 year, it could be a big mistake. Plastic is a mistake like that. There's so many other things I can count. So that's first thing. The second thing is, if you're really going to build something for that long, and entrepreneurship, and I believe therefore being investor is a roller coaster ride. It's just too much of high and too much of lows. You sign a term sheet or raise your Series B today morning, and next day you come to know you lost your biggest client. The day you appear on the first page of Economic Times, the next day you realize that one of your star performers is leaving to build something of their own. We go through this all the time. And if you go with every high to a high, with every low to low, you'll be miserable. Every time we go through that, we spend ourselves. Every time you go through that, and you run out of yourself over a 5 year, 10 year, 15 year period actually. And I happen to be part of some acquisition process, both acquiring and selling Carvalho earlier. And one of the things I realized is that founders do run out of willpower over a decade. And that's not great actually. So to me, Buddha was possibly the most scientific, enlightened master this planet has ever seen. And he used one word more than most of the words he said. And that word was samyak. He said samyak intent, samyak action, samyak thought, and so on and so forth. In Hindi it was samyak drasti, samyak vichar, samyak ahar, and so on and so forth. The samyak word basically means the balance, the path of the middle. So as an entrepreneur, what I realized is that you don't want to stay. When I think about, will you be really elated at everything that you do, everything that you invent, or will you be, sad for everything that goes wrong? You won't be. You want to stay in the middle as much as you can. Not easy, but that's a desire can practice first thing. And my third thing is, all entrepreneurs and investors are in the business of building future. We bet on the future. As a result, we sell futures to everybody all the time. To our investors, to our employees, to potential customers, and so on and so forth. And we assess trends, we look at the data, we look at the history, and we are a thinker. And to be a thinker, you need to have space. Thinking is like having a walk of the mind. You go in the past, you go to the future. They literally don't think of being in the moment. You don't have a walk of the mind in the moment actually. And as a result, we live too much in the future. Often we don't live as much in the past, we live too much in the future. We are optimistic people. And to me, that's not something as great way of living. Because every time you act and you think about the future and the KPIs and what are we leading it to, assessing it all the time, uh, you're not 100% in the moment. And therefore your actions are not 100% in the moment. I've written some quote around this. I'll just try and read it. The future in my head is only to be used as a compass. It's direction. You think about what you will build over 10 years, and therefore what you should do in 5 years, and this year, and you act towards it. It's like a football match. Every time the ball goes back to the center back or to the goalkeeper, it's not moving progress, but that's just being the moment to say this is the right pass at this time, and you do that, and you solve, for scoring that goal, getting that outcome over a long period of time. And to be honest, future never arrives. Whatever it arrives, it's the present. And if you keep living in the future, if you keep thinking about solving for it, even when it arrives, you don't really live it. And I still remember all those instances where I really thought, I wish this happens. I was selling a large part of Carvana in 2010, and somebody bought it for $25 million, which was really large at that point of time. In 2010, $25 million was like, in cash was really good. And I wish if this deal happened, nothing else I need to do. And that happened. And we keep building it further. And then I wish if I had, another $10 million for my next TV campaign, and so on and so forth. It just never ends actually. And therefore, if you are perpetually chasing an outcome, these tend to be a lot more miserable. And my other understanding is that a really intelligent entrepreneur, don't really worry about the past, and he or she will also not worry about the future. Because they know when the future arrives, they're really capable of responding to it. And the reality is that of all the plan and AOPs that really build, most of them really don't go through the way it is, the way we thought about it. Life is changing. Future is unpredictable. There's so many things which happens, from the competition to the market to the policy to the regulations to my own team, that directionally it's all good, but you can't get stuck to it. You evolve, you change, you pivot, and you do all of those things. So what I said looks more like a philosophy or a gyan, but I can personally practice this a lot over the last many years, and I think I derive a lot of value from it, and hopefully some of this will be useful to you as well. That's all I have to say. I'll take a pause here if you have a question for me, either on the Chalo or whatever I spoke about. Be in the moment. You can ask them. Yeah. Please.
So Mohit, I don't know if this was your intention to talk about, but how do you actually, can you talk a little bit about the business? Bringing the buses online, selling or creating the cars. Can you talk a little bit about how do you actually do it?
How do
Implement it.
So, Chalo's business model is very simple. I think first of all, we are trying to solve the daily commute on the road. It is totally broken. And as human beings, we don't deserve, to travel like that. So that's the fundamental, the compass. The people are waiting at the bus stop, not knowing when the bus will come. The first thing that we really solve for is to tell you where exactly your bus is. And we go step forward and tell you not just where the bus is, but how crowded the bus is. And should you give this one and take the next one, etc. That's one. The people who are running buses, they're either government in large metros like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, or they're very small operators in Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. Like really tiny operators with 2 or 3 buses. None of them really have thought about or have the mind share to think of the tech and the consumer experience significantly. So we make operators' life super easy. We make them, we make their business reliable, more trustworthy, transparent, and so on and so forth. As a result, the customer experience significantly improves. Typically, when you deploy a tech for automatic bus operations and ticketing, it's interesting that India has 10 billion UPI transactions every month, and almost none of those are in the bus. There's no UPI in the bus. Bus is moving. There's no internet connection on that, right? Very often, you can't rely on it. It will take a couple of minutes to scan a QR code on a moving bus, and you do not know what to pay for that ride. And the conductor has to come in and do a line of sight in a moving bus with one hand holding the handle and do a validation of the ticket. Right? So none of those really work over there. And therefore, we built a full offline payment stack to do that. And that's why we take a lot of pride in saying 6 million rides every day is what we deliver. So that's what Chalo does. We get paid every time somebody buys a ticket in the bus. Like, it doesn't matter whether the ticket is on the card or on the app or it's a cash ticket. Right? So we make money on that. Does that answer the question, Karan?
Excellence upfront, right? How did you come out with that?
How do we handle the rejection, right? There will be a lot of rejection, both from the operators and the investors. So, the operator rejection was, what we realized is that when I went to Indore, the collection of an operator in Indore was 5,000 rupees. The same operator, the similar operator running a similar bus in Mangalore was 12,000 rupees. In Tamil Nadu, that's 15,000 rupees. And so on and so forth. The bus can potentially make 30,000 rupees a day. But operators have no clue about it. And I'll ignore the maths. But operators actually do not know how much a bus can really make and what potential it has. They've been running bus for 15 to 20 years, and there's some incremental growth, and that's all it is. To give an example, in Bombay, the ridership of bus in 2010 was close to 4 million a day. And over next 10 decades, and then over next 10 years, a decade, it's keep falling. And we all think Bombay population is increasing, so more people should take buses, but it was dropping simply because the poor customer experience, right? And it came down to as low as 2 million or 2.5 million. So what Chalo did actually is to go and demonstrate to an operator that we can really make a difference to your bottom line. We can really make a difference to your ridership. And typical operators see a 25, 30, 23. In the beginning, they did not really believe in us. We were crazy enough to underwrite their collection and say, you will make 6,000 rupees a day. At the end of the day, we will pay you 6,000 rupees. And whatever the upside that we create, we'll take half of it. And we did create an upside of 50% in Indore, something like 35% in Bhopal. And I can go and give you multiple examples. That model got disrupted because of COVID. But buses came to a halt. There was no way to guarantee what ridership would look like in a bus, so we couldn't really do that any further. And therefore, we pivoted to go to an operator and say, we have demonstrated enough that deploying the tech will get you a lot more value, and therefore you should pay for us. You should pay for it to us. And today we make money every time we deploy the tech. We do that in Bangalore, we do it in PSP in Bombay, we do it in Odisha and Assam and MP and Jammu and Srinagar and Manila and Bangkok. We do the same thing in Lima. Lima, for example, is very interesting that, and I'm sorry, I got a lot more than what you asked for, but Lima has a population of just 10 million, 1 crore. And Lima has 22,000 buses. All of them are run by private operators. Bombay has a population of 20 million. It's just double what Lima has. And Bombay has 3,000 buses. Bombay needs 40,000 buses, to really solve the traffic, for all of us to not get stuck every day when we get stuck. And I can give you many examples of so many cities around the world. London has a population of, again, 95 lakhs, so 10 million. And London has 8,800 double-decker buses, almost equivalent to 70,000 buses. So this is after having a subway or a metro or a tube every 100 meters. So, and 55% people who take a metro in London will come out of the bus or go into the bus. So buses are, by default. I'll go on and tell you that in India, for example, we have the total rail length, which is the metro rail length for local travel, of 900 kilometers. We are third largest in the world after China and UK. And I was saying that 900 kilometers is large, and the government did a great job from growing it from 400 kilometers to 900 kilometers by now. But people who travel in any city above 5 lakh population, they cover 1 million kilometers every day for their daily commute. And what would 900 kilometers of metro rail will solve? We still have to solve for feeder buses, mainline buses, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think we're looking good direction today. My operator churn rate is like nothing, 1 or 2%. All the people who did not pay on time, we decided to sort of let it go.
Yeah, hi, Vivek. Mohit Rahul. Just wanted to know if you can just give a highlight on the, what is the addressable market? So is it only the state-owned buses, or even what is the market for private buses? Because otherwise, when you just give these numbers of the buses in the other countries, then it looks to be that we are very extremely underpenetrated and we're just starting off. So is it the right interpretation?
I'm sorry. I was minor hearing loss. I was struggling to hear something which is echoing. Thank you for repeating. Okay, so India's daily commute market is around $80 billion annually. This is what we spend, other than the private vehicle, on buses or autos or cabs, metro, etc. And buses is around about 25 billion. Sorry, I said 80 billion. 25 billion of this, of the $80 billion what people spend. So that's one, and this is growing. Bombay has 3,000 buses, but Bombay has also ordered another 7,000 buses. And same is true for Srinagar and Delhi and any city that we pick up today. We all have woken up to the fact that our cities are bringing in the edges, and we will have to go and solve for a great quality public transport. So $25 billion should whatever it becomes over the next few years. That's one. But today, over the last few years, what we built, it's so interesting that bus as a category is totally undersized. Not just in India, but in so many more markets. It's undersized in Jakarta, it's undersized in Lima, and Bangkok, and Manila, and Cairo, and so on and so forth. Right? So if I look around and look at this, it's so much more larger. Even in the developed pocket, in a Zurich or a London or a Tokyo, there are enough things around buses which are undersized. If you look at this, the total market looks like to me the TAM, that Chalo can deliver to is close to $100 billion.
So this is for the state transport buses, and how about the private buses? The private tour operators. So are we also targeting that market, or that's a separate market?
Sure. Out of the $25 billion, 70% of buses in India are run by private operators. Government buses only Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Hyderabad, etc. That's it. You go beyond this. Every bus in MP is run by private operator. Every bus. 70% buses in Uttarakhand are run by private operators. And same is true for Kerala and Tamil Nadu.
So, but are we also solving for private operators because they themselves would already have the.
For it doesn't matter actually. I have a customer in government, like all BST buses in Bombay are on a Chalo platform. All of them. All of Odisha government buses are on a Chalo platform. All of Assam buses are on a Chalo platform. And there are other 3,000 buses in Karnataka, Kerala are on a Chalo platform. And same is true for Manila, all buses are largely private. They are on a Chalo. So for us it doesn't really matter because the customer taking a bus is indifferent to the fact that whether he's taking a private operated bus or a government bus actually. The pain point is the same. You're waiting at the bus stop, buying the tickets in cash. You cannot buy a monthly travel plan when you take a bus and so on.
Thank you.
Hi, Mohit. Your business seems to be a lot closely having to work with the governments. Hey, here I am. So a large part of your business seems to be.
Sorry for that story. But, we work with government, and I've been lucky to have a co-founder who, she herself worked with government for 10, 12 years. And what we realized is that we were making the rounds of the government offices since 2014. It took us until 2020 when somebody believed in us and said, let's give these guys a chance. We started building a business. I happened to meet Peter Thiel. He said something very interesting. Before that book, 0 to 1 came in. I asked him, what should I really worry about while building a business? I was selling car around that time. And I had literally this in my head that, what do I do? And I'll tell you a very interesting anecdote. When I was coming out of my house one day and taking a lift, my neighbor just came and said, आपका ad देखा टीवी में बहुत ही अच्छा है, बहुत मजा आया, बहुत अच्छा बनाया. And it was a car Nico ad, not a car wale ad. And he was my neighbor. He can't differentiate between a car Nico and car wale. And it's true actually because car Nico, car wale, car kit, car 24, they all sound the same and they do all the same thing. So one of the things Peter Thiel told me is that you want to build a business with literally no competition. And how do you build a business with no competition? You build a business with no competition by looking at things that other people are not doing it. And they're not doing it because they have a blind spot around that category or that problem. And what is the blind spot? The blind spot is in this category is that we think government runs the buses. And that's just not true. 70% buses in India are run by operators. And that is true for 90% buses in Manila, 100% buses in Lima, some 95% buses in Cairo, and so on and so forth. Right? So we started building a business for the private operator. It so happened that somebody in the government also saw it. And the reality is that in the last 3 years, last 3 or 4 years, we have realized that cities are breaking on the edges, and there's no way government can ignore that. You can't ignore what's happening in Bangalore traffic. You will have to go and solve for a great public transport. It's inevitable. And therefore, we start getting so many phone calls. People invited us, they're willing to listen to us, because in a small city like Jabalpur, 45% people were using a Chalo app or a Chalo card to travel every day per buses. And that number in Bangalore is 2%. 1% people in Delhi pays digitally for bus travel. The number in Bombay is much larger because Chalo is present there. The number looks like 45% people use the app to track a bus and 20% people pay every day. So they realized that it's an unsolved problem. And they have spent $100 million over the last 5 years to solve just these two things. Somebody can buy a ticket digitally and track a bus. And all this money went down the drain in Chennai and Bangalore and Delhi. It's a very complex problem to solve. As I said, we deliver 1 billion ETA every day. And that's not a joke to deliver a billion ETA every day. It takes something a lot more complex than a system integrator or a software company provider. And these are the people who are trying to solve this customer problem earlier. So I think the government is now awake to say this has to be solved. And somebody in Bombay gave us a chance to try it out. We took 80 days to deliver a full digital solution and take all buses in Bombay live, both in tracking and ticketing and doing travel plans. 80 days. Typically, these projects have a 12-month, go live duration. In 80 days, it became a showcase for a lot of people to come and see. The people from 20 countries of public transport has come and seen that. And we get so much more inbound from so many cities and states in India that I think you don't have to worry about the government. We actually make a choice who we want to work with. For example, we have demands like that when a customer pays for a bus ticket, the money goes into escrow account. The STU or the urban local body get paid their share, and whatever Chalo has to charge 1% to 5-6% comes to us automatically. They were given a target to generate $1 billion in revenues from mobility, not by selling cars. So if those people were thinking mobility and their future was not car manufacturing, how would Carvana make any money by helping people buy and sell cars? Because that's anyways a disruptive. So I was thinking about what will happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years in terms of mobility, and that's where the Chalo was born inside Carvana. So the seed was already sown. It just happened that I happened to sell the business, and therefore came out very hungry, and it was half done, And because it was problem literally lurking in front of you, you want to go and solve it. Somebody asked Edmund Hillary. He was the guy who climbed Mount Everest, right? Yeah. Why did you climb? Because what's the point of it? You can sit comfortably at home, sip a coffee. What's the need to go and do this? He said, you see something which is unsolved, something which has not been climbed yet. Even if it's a hill near your building, you want to go and climb it. You see a problem lurking in front of your eyes, and you face it every day. I was in mobility, dealing in cars. I had guilt selling cars, in fact. What I'm really leading to. So it was so obvious that you'll go and do something about it. And that's the reason you want to be an entrepreneur, right? So it just happened to do this. Yeah. And I don't know what else will I do. If not just go and solve the biggest problem in front of my eye.
Hi Mohit, quick question. I'm Ram from Tat Capital.
Can I come there? Sorry, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, Ram, what is the major technology challenges you see when you start doing Chalo in various markets and states? And primarily, if you look at the obviously every country has different kind of ecosystem, not everybody has the same.
He asked me what kind of challenges we faced when we started working on the tech and also the fintech part of it, because it's very, very different for many markets and many cities and countries as well. So, the first fundamental problem, even just for light taking a bus, was very, very complex. If you noticed, if you see the video in the beginning, Priya said that my co-founder spent 2.5 years at the bus stop and in the bus and in the train to figure out a light tracking. It's a complex problem to solve. Bus do not always follow the same route. You think it follows the same route. India has 35% diverted. In fact, Bangalore has that number. 35% routes get changed and buses get diverted every now and then. Similarly, in India, you will have diversion on the road. You will have some procession going on. There's some festival. There's something else, and the bus takes a different route actually. And if you look at Google Map, also you have an ETA for the car, you have ETA for the bike because they're different. You have another ETA for the public vehicle, for example, right? So it's very different. And Google doesn't like buses. What they give you the schedule, which is, it's not accurate actually at all. So just to do a live tracking, to get the right frequency of the GPS, and build an algorithm about a route diversion, build an algorithm about the traffic, all of that was really complex for it. It took a very long time to get to a 98, 99% accuracy. If I tell you you're a bus ETA and I'm wrong by 1 or 2 minutes, you can just miss it. And that phrase, you miss the bus, that's actually true. So it was very complex. It took us a while to get that right. The second thing was about the ticketing machine. The conductor inside the bus, he wants to sell tickets. First of all, he doesn't want to sell the tickets. And to give you an example, MPSRTC was Madhya Pradesh State Road Transport Corporation got bankrupt in 2005. I used to live next door to that STU, and when they were sold, who bought the buses? The buses were auctioned because the organization went bankrupt. Conductors bought the buses. They all became the operators. And that's true for everyone actually. Every bus runs. Operators tell me in India, and in Lima, and in Fiji, and in Manila, the pilfers run about 25%. So the guy is not wanted to sell a ticket inside the bus. And he has many reasons to do that. Not just the pilferage, but also the rush. And therefore, to get a conductor to use the ticket, and the operator has literally no control on the conductor. Operator relies totally on the conductor. They can't even enforce it actually. So conductor to be motivated, the machine has to be so good. The conductors who got a category operation tells me that the machine is a boon for them because they can increase the font size. It's so easy to do it now. It takes 10 minutes of training to a conductor to sell a ticket on the machine. So our time to sell a ticket on the machine has to be less than a second. It has to be that good. And similarly for people who travel with a card, and that's a fintech part of it. As I said, UPI doesn't work inside the buses. And if you're having a card, to tap it takes 2, 3, 4 seconds. You will have a chaos. People will tell you to go inside the bus faster because in Bombay everybody says "Bode Chala," which is like please go forward, and that's the true for every bus. Even you enter the bus, it can't take long enough. Your mobile phone, they're not NFC enabled. There are 5,000 Android phones, there's no NFC in that phone. How do you make somebody use the phone and buy a ticket? So it was a lot more complex. We have to figure out sound QR code. Without a line of sight, it's a moving bus. We have to figure out a BLE transaction on that, and all of that. It took us so many years to do that. The Bombay was done in 80 days because we were preparing for it for almost 8 or 9 years, and therefore it was an overnight success. And I think a lot more complex than that. We are yet to find a startup who has done all of these things around the world. So many people are partnering with us because they have tried this and it did not work, and therefore they're so much willing to take Chalo's product in their market and sell it and give us a revenue share. On the fintech piece, it's really complicated, but now I'm very proud that we have been able to partner with NPCI and with multiple banks to figure out the way to sell a card inside the bus without doing a KYC, even for the fintech. You're paying it, it's a bank-powered card, but you don't require a KYC. So you require a minimal KYC for a conductor to be able to sell a card to you, in the bus. You pay 100 rupees to the conductor, he gives you a card, he hands over the card to you right on the spot. And so on and so forth actually. So it was complex, but over a very long period of time, I think we were able to possibly solve it. Maybe that does that answer your question?
I was more interested in the experience of using in other countries at this time.
Oh yeah, so on that we try to partner with some of those masters and visas of the world, or go to and find a local phone pay and a Paytm and Google Pay, etc. And what we also do is that, luckily beyond India, in public transport or daily intra-city buses, there are large operators. There are operators with 1,000% and 2,000 buses in Manila. So it becomes easier because they're a lot more organized. Their ability to help us solve these problems is much more than what it was in India actually. Am I not taking too much time? No.
So I'll ask this question here so you can hear me fine. Can you hear me fine? Huh?
train for this marathon of building a company? So, how do you train yourself for this marathon of running a company? Right? How do you fuel yourself? Who do you follow? How do you keep your eye on the next mile? How do you train yourself so you continuously keep running to this seemingly endless marathon?
Yeah, I think, the first of all, I realized very early on that I'm a very, very ordinary person. I couldn't make it to IIT after taking it off for 2 years and so on and so forth. And I meet so many smart people every day. In fact, VCs were my favorite in 2002, 2005. Every time I go and meet them, they give me free breakfast, free lunches in really good hotels, and they give good advice, really, really good advice. I was just happy to meet one of them, just like that, even if they don't give the money. So what I did was, I started reading a lot. Every time I have a problem, I'll just go and read a book. I can't tell you how many books I have read. I read maybe 10 books on hiring because I didn't know how to hire a vice president of marketing. How do I interview that guy? I became an entrepreneur without really a good experience, without doing anything much. And I just happened to become one accidentally. And so I read a lot, a lot. And I think that gives you so many answers. Most of the problems in the world have been figured out already. And I'm not very philosophical because I believe that there is a theory for everything. You should go and look at the theory and go and implement it. And if you find it wrong, go and change the theory, right? I think I had a very principle-driven approach, almost in everything in life, right? In fact, I have a problem when people don't have a principle because if you keep solving for a method and a technique, every time you have a problem, it's very visible way of living actually. You got to have some principles, right, around which you will try to solve it. So that's one. And second, I try and practice to be just there a lot. Like just there a lot. In every meeting, if I drift away, I'll bring myself back. I'll literally be there on that moment as much as I can. I think these are two things I would possibly say. I read a lot. I also seek a lot of advice from everyone. If I have a problem, I'll go to each of my co-founders, I'll go to my investors, I'll go to everybody I think is smarter than me and ask for their opinion. But I also learned very early on when I was selling Carval that you are the captain of the ship. Nobody goes down to the ship other than you actually. So it doesn't really matter how people advise you and what they say. You're the one to finally decide it. So those are my compass, right? Listen to everybody else, but it's your call ultimately. And I also know that I'm the one who's going to live with the Chalo for the rest of the life. A lot of people will come in, and I hope every LP and GP there will get a great exit out of Carval. But we're the one going to live with it for too long. So I don't want to build it for anybody else. I don't want to build it for an optics for the next quarter or the next year, right? I think it's very hard call to say you can only really do what is right for the business in the long term. So my other principle is work is only about long term. There's literally no short term in that. And family only about short term. If I have to go and spend some time with my daughter, it's today. She needs to listen to a story, I do it today. I don't tell her that I'm building a great business and I can send you to Harvard tomorrow, right? That's not done. And so is true for doing household chores or anything like that, right? You live in family is short term, work is very, very long term. I think I take it reverse time, right? So yeah. Thanks so much.